Hey Chris, here's my alternate method for beam weapons. This is what I would do in a game. Just open up GIMP here, got an image, a little white triangle. This is another one. It's going to be this is the actual, the beam itself. This is going to be kind of a mask for it, so it's always going to squirt out of the ship. I'm going to show you for the objects. I've got just a crappy Reliant, a crappy Enterprise, and this is the actual beam. So here's that first. It's got the first texture mapped onto it. For the second one, yeah, this is the mask. This is the UVs for this over here. So if you look, it lines up right with the mask image. The UV coordinates for the beam are off a little bit. You're going to scale it by depending on how fast you want it to travel. If you look at the actual nodes for this and layout, well, let me show you what happens. So you've got the UVs here. Make it so that what we're seeing is the actual, there you go, the actual beam. So if you were to move these UVs, then you can see over here the beam goes from one side to the other. So what I do is I go into layout and get rid of this so I can't see this anymore. Let's remove that. I'm going to use the node editor instead. You have something like this in Max. And what you do, you have the first image, the beam running through a gradient basically, which spits it out to the color channel of the surface or the material, whatever you want to call it. And then this is also being multiplied with the mask, and then going into the transparency channel. And then all I do is I scale the UV offset for the V channel, just like sliding it up and down before, by a scaler. So you can slide it back and forth, it'll go up and down, and I just map this to a curve so that on whatever frame it's on determines how far along it is in that sliding UV animation, if that makes sense. And I'll show you what that looks like. There you go. What I've done is I've stretched it out. Let me turn it off of the VPI render. What I've done is I've taken that quad, excuse me, and I've just stretched it out and kind of anchored it into the Enterprise where you want it. It can go over there, it can go over there. My camera view is down here in the bottom. So you always get a little, if you want to tweak it, you can tweak it right here in the 3D viewport without having to flip back and forth to After Effects and whatnot. And then for every frame, I actually don't want that there. I need to delete that key. And then as the frames go on, it cycles through the all the V coordinates, and you get, you know, the phasers. This is what the mask is doing down here. I'll show you up in this top one a little closer. What the mask is doing is making it so that when it's close to the pivot point, that beam gets nice and thin, so you don't get a big glob coming straight out of the phaser bank. So what you do is you render this out. What I did was I rendered it out, just kind of did a breakout where I rendered out the shifts, I rendered out the background, and then just rendered out the beam itself, and ran that over here into Fusion. And what you get in Fusion is, this is just my compositor. So here's the Fusion breakout, here's the background, I just did a little, this next node is the just color correction for it to darken it up like the Minara scene. Here's the foreground with the ships, and then this all gets merged into this plate, and then this all gets shot over here. This is the actual, the rendering of the beam coming out there. Tweak the alpha a little bit. It was, the edges weren't coming out quite right. Tweak the alpha, do some glow, another layer of glow, and then merge it all down together. And what you get is what you would kind of expect to get. Kind of phaser blast looking thing. Let me get in closer so you can see. These are very low res textures as well. They're only 512 by 512, which is why you'll see a little bit of, you know, pixelation over here and there. I mean, the base textures, these things here are only 512, the mask and the actual thing, so there is some crunching around the edges. But for the most part, it kind of works, and it's all in one kind of process. You don't have to jump back and try to match things up in, you know, post. So if you want to change for what you're doing, I guess maybe you don't mind that so much. But if you were, I think if you were making a new scene from scratch, it would kind of get to be a pain to have to line up all the weapon shots again. But I don't know. I guess there's that plugin that makes it easier. But I don't know. Let me know what you think.